You're listening to the I'm Busy Being Awesome podcast with Paula Engebretson, episode number 285. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so glad you're here. Today, we are picking up right where we left off last week. Now, if you didn't hear last week's episode, no problem. This one will still make complete sense. You're not behind. Don't worry. With that being said, it might be one you want to pop back to next. All right. Now, if you did catch last week's episode, you know that we talked about burnout. And more specifically, we explored how burnout is so much more than a feeling of depletion or a feeling of flatness, just exhaustion. Now, of course, it's that too, right? But we talked about how in addition to that, burnout is also a signal. It's like your brain is waving this giant flag saying, hey, something isn't working here. We need to do something about this. Now, the natural question that might arise from that new awareness is, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? If burnout is telling us what's not working, what should I do instead? I'll tell you this, it's not actually about doing more. Surprise, surprise. Okay. So what we need to do is not do more. And it's certainly not about pushing harder. Instead, what we want to do is find our focus. When we can get really clear on what truly matters to us in this season, and we can direct our energy and our intention on those specific areas, that is when we unlock the secrets to sustainable productivity, sustainable progress. And today, I want to talk about how we can do just that. So we're going to explore why focus can feel so incredibly challenging for those of us with ADHD brains and ADHD tendencies, and also how we can pull in our focus and really use it as a compass, as a guide to figure out our next steps. Sound good? Okay, so let's dive in and let's start by connecting the dots between burnout and focus. Okay, so burnout often comes from a really scattered energy when we are pulled in all the different directions. And again, as ADHD brains, this is not an unfamiliar experience. Let's use double negatives. Ugh, this is a very familiar experience for us, right? Focus is a natural challenge for those of us with ADHD. And so it makes sense that we often feel pulled in many directions because our focus can scatter more easily. Now, this can show up in a handful of different ways. I'm going to talk about 3 today. There's of course more, but we're going to look at 3 key ways that this tends to show up. The first of which is distractibility. Okay. And when we're on this, can we just all agree that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is one of the worst names ever because it makes it sound like we don't have attention deficit. That is just not it. The truth is, we do not have a deficit of attention. We have a surplus of attention without a filter. Our brains are firing on all cylinders. We're noticing everything all at once. We are tuned into the barking dog and the notification ding and the email that just came in and the half empty coffee mug and that we're a little bit hungry and all of it, right? We are tuned in to all of it. And the real struggle is putting on those horse blinders that allow us to really narrow our focus on the task at hand. This surplus of attention is why we get pulled in so many different directions so easily. Our brains are wired to seek that novelty and that stimulation. Now, for example, let's say you sit down to work on some report. You have all the intention in the world to get it done, and then your dog starts barking at the UPS delivery or whatever. So you go down, you check on the dog, you see the package that's outside, so you bring it in and you go, oh, that's the new dishes I ordered or whatever. So you start opening the box and you put it in the dishwasher, and then you're like, well, I better declutter and get rid of the other dishes since this is here. And all of a sudden, the entire afternoon is gone. Your dishes and cupboards look amazing, but that report remains unwritten. Does this sound familiar? Of course it does. Of course it does, because it's so easy for our ADHD brains to get pulled in 12 different directions at once. And then building on this, we have our competing priorities. It's that classic example of everything matters right now. Everything is important. So how can we possibly choose where to start? And so instead of making any progress, we end up spinning in those circles, or not doing anything, or trying to do a little bit of everything, but again, not making the progress that we want. And then finally, that brings us to the mental gridlock or the spin cycle, right? This is where the decision fatigue takes over, and it seems like we are standing at this crossroads with no idea which way to go. We are pulled in all these different directions. We've been thinking about it so much that our brain has either completely melted or executive functions have left the building, whatever analogy you want to use, and every option just seems paralyzing. Even the smallest decision seems next to impossible, and we're frozen. Now, there, like I said, are other ways that this can show up, but these are kind of the main three that I tend to see show up most often. So burnout is like throwing on the emergency brake. It's like, hey, hold on, makes us pause. We have to pay attention, but it doesn't actually show us which road to take on the drive. Focus comes in, on the other hand, and it acts as that GPS. It goes, hold on, I've got you. Let's plot a new course forward and make sure that it's one that aligns with your goals, with your values, with your current energy levels. For ADHD brains, this shift is especially important and especially powerful, because without that focus, without that sense of direction, it's so easy to get stuck in that reaction mode where we are responding to every new distraction or urgency or new idea or new alert that comes in, which then loops us right back to the path of burnout. But when we use focus with intention and we give ourselves that clear direction, we take back control over what's unfolding. We're no longer scattering our energy and scattering our attention in all these different directions. Instead, we are aligning with what truly matters to you in this season. And again, I know I say this often, but for anybody who might be new, when I say in this season, I could literally mean this season, right? Whether it's winter or spring, but it could also be this season of life that you're in. Maybe you've just had a new baby, or maybe you're in a busy semester, or it's a move and you're kind of in that season of transition. So use the word season in whichever way feels supportive for you. Okay. So how do we do this? What does it look like to use focus as a compass? How can we work with focus to help it guide us in the direction in which we want to go? Well, I think it starts with asking some intentional questions and spending some time with them. If you're anything like me and my brain, when you first ask yourself these questions that I'm about to offer, it'll be like, I don't know. Don't ask me that. I don't have time for that. I can't slow down and think about that. So if that happens, when you hear these next questions, you're right on track. Don't worry. But I invite you to pause with them. Maybe one of them. Choose one and spend a little bit of time with it. Okay, so here's a handful of questions that I like to play around with as I'm clarifying what I'm focused on, what it looks like to use focus as a compass. Okay, so you might ask yourself, what truly matters to me right now? What matters? And let the things come up. You might ask yourself, what is one action that I could take today that aligns with my bigger goals? Just one. What is one action that I could take? You might ask yourself, how can I direct my energy in a way that feels purposeful and also manageable today? What is one way that I could direct my energy that feels purposeful and manageable? Again, if your brain is like, I don't know, don't even get out of here with that. I see you, okay? But I encourage you to pause with one of them, one of those questions. Because when you ask yourself questions like this, you help shift out of that reactive mode and into intentionality. You start to create clarity, which is the foundation for what I call sustainable productivity. When you align your focus with what matters most, you're not just arbitrarily checking things off the list. When you align your focus with what you truly care about, you are building momentum in a way that feels sustainable and satisfying. Okay? That momentum is what allows you to keep moving forward without sliding into burnout, because it's done with intention on the things that you care the most about. It's not just arbitrarily checking things off the list. So let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. Okay, let's talk about productivity for a minute, because the word productivity can be pretty heavy. It's a pretty loaded term. And it's often tied with a whole lot of doing better, more, faster, working harder, staying busy, checking all the boxes, okay? But the thing is, that traditional definition of productivity is just not built for an ADHD brain. Frankly, I don't think it's built for any brain. It is built for machines. But since I'm here talking to you, my fellow ADHD brain, it is most certainly not built for us. And this is where that sustainable productivity comes in. Sustainable productivity is a completely different approach. It's not about doing more just because we want to check it off the list. It's about doing what matters most in a way that aligns with your energy and your values and your life, and ensuring that you actually have the space in your time budget to do it. It is about making persistent, meaningful progress without running yourself into the ground. Turns out that's possible. When you are working in a way that's actually sustainable, I'm telling you, it feels completely different from the hustle culture of traditional productivity. So first of all, in terms of clarity, you're so much more clear on what matters most. And instead of feeling pulled in a million different directions, you know what's worth your time and your energy and your attention. Those things are finite. And so we want to be so intentional about where we are placing them. And when we are working from a place of sustainable productivity, that is so much clearer. Focus. Okay, focus. You are intentional about how you spend that time and attention. Your energy isn't scattered. It is directed toward the things that align with your long-term goals, your values, your big picture priorities. And that brings us to momentum. Okay, when you are working in a framework of sustainable productivity, you're making steady progress that is both manageable and satisfying. Okay? You're not trying to do everything at once just because you think you should or because you need to check all the things off. Instead, you're focusing on the next small step, knowing it's enough because it's moving you toward those big picture goals that actually matter to you. Let me give you an example with such a common ADHD experience, which is the overwhelming, never-ending to-do list. You know the one I'm talking about. It has at least 50 things scrawled on paper. You have at least 20 more in your head and probably 17 on different apps. All of it's bouncing around, and you have that constant feeling of overwhelm and dread. You're thinking, I'm never going to get it all done. I know I'm missing something. I know I had something else I needed to do. I don't know where to start. Now imagine swapping that feeling of overwhelm and that list of tasks for one or two key things that you know are directly tied to your big picture goal. Instead of trying to tackle everything, you instead focus on a few meaningful actions that you know move the needle. So you're no longer just staying busy for the sake of being busy. As I love to remind us all, we are only busy being awesome. We're not just busy to be busy. We are instead making intentional progress where it counts. So instead of, well, I know I just have to do this report. I need to finish this report by tomorrow. You instead focus on, I'm going to draft the introduction this morning. Instead of, I need to get organized, I'm just going to do the kitchen today. You instead focus on, I'm going to declutter this drawer, or I'm going to remove the things from the counter. Instead of, I need to get healthier, right? Start of the new year, need to get healthier. Instead, we focus on, I'm going to take a 20-minute walk after lunch in the afternoon. Each of these small actions is specific and doable, right? It is achievable. And it's also meaningful because they're tied to those bigger picture goals that matter to you. And when you complete them, even though they're a smaller component, you know that they're building momentum to what matters without burning you out. And for ADHD brains, sustainable productivity, this isn't just a nice idea, it is essential. We are not wired to grind endlessly through long to-do lists or work in a way that ignores our natural energy and rhythms. When we can simplify our focus and align our actions with our values and create the systems that honor how our brains work best, we set ourselves up for success. Focus isn't just about getting things done. It is about creating alignment. It helps you to pause and evaluate where your energy is going. It simplifies decisions by clarifying what's truly important. It builds momentum, and it turns those small intentional actions into those meaningful results. Here's the deal. Part of your brain is probably going to fight this, but focus is not just about getting things done. And on one level, we know this. On another level, your brain's like, what? No, I just have to get it all done. But let's pause. Focus isn't just about getting all the things done. It's about creating alignment. When we can focus, it helps us to pause and evaluate where we are putting our energy. It allows us to simplify decisions and clarify what is most important. And when we do that, we build momentum by turning those small intentional actions into meaningful results, which is the end goal. When we have focus as our compass, we're not just chasing everything all at once. We are charting deliberate courses toward what matters most. So how do we do this? Let's get practical, okay? I'm going to offer a 3-step framework to help you build that clarity, to anchor your efforts and protect your focus. Okay, these are the 3 steps, and I want to talk about how we can do that for your ADHD brain and how we can do it without the overwhelm. So step 1, we want to clarify what's most important. This step is all about, like I said, creating clarity. It's getting crystal clear on your priorities. Because as I've mentioned time and time again, for ADHD brains, everything seems equally important and urgent if we don't slow down and make these distinctions. If we don't slow down, we get stuck. But when we clarify what matters most, we pull away all the noise, all the unnecessary distraction, and instead create direction. So here's how we get started with step 1. Ask yourself, what is one thing that I could accomplish this week that would leave me feeling really proud and aligned with my goals? If I just did one thing this week, what would future me look back and go, heck yes, self, way to do that. Thanks for checking that off the list. Identify that one thing and then break it down. Maybe use ChatGPT or use goblin.tools, right? Magic to do, and type in the thing that you want to do, get the steps for it. For example, let's say that one thing is finishing the report for work, okay? Instead of staring at that whole report and going, okay, here we go, it's Tuesday, let's write the report. Instead, we want to break down those steps. Maybe it's brainstorming the key points, drafting the introduction, organizing the research, okay? Each one of those steps becomes so much more manageable when we clarify it. So that is step 1. Identify the one thing that if you did that this week, it would be a heck yes, self. Thank you for showing up. Identify that one thing. Then we get to step 2, and we want to anchor your day around one key action. So once you've clarified your priorities, the next step is to anchor your day with one key action. I call this an anchor task. So an anchor task is the one action that's going to help move the needle on that priority you identified in step 1. It's specific, it's achievable, it's doable, and it helps set the tone for your day. And this is so powerful for an ADHD brain because it's reducing our decision fatigue. Instead of spinning in overwhelm with all 50 things on our to-do list about what we should do next, we already decided the one thing that if we do it, it's going to build that momentum. That's where we want to focus first. By doing it, it will create that momentum. And completing that anchor task gives us that dopamine boost, which then kind of sends us on our way, making it a little bit easier to tackle the other things on our list. And whether we get them done or not is, extra. Because the most amazing thing is we got the anchor task done. The one thing that's moving us forward on the one thing for the week. So here's how we're creating that anchor task. Okay, we want to tie it to the priority, that one thing for the week. What is that thing I want to do this week? Let me look at all the small steps I broke down and then ask yourself, what is the one action that I could take today that directly supports that end goal? Make it specific. Instead of saying work on the project, try write the introduction or outline the main bullet points. Or instead of get organized, declutter the spatulas in the drawer. I don't know. When I first started decluttering, I had so many spatulas. Why do we need so many spatulas? I don't know. But maybe that's your thing, right? Declutter the spatulas. And then from there, we want to anchor that task to your day. So think about when the activity most aligns with your peak focus, whether it's the morning or midday or evening. That is your anchor time. So let's look at some examples. Maybe you want to draft an email for a proposal at work, and your best time is in the morning for that. Or if we're decluttering spatulas, maybe for you, you have kind of an afternoon slump, and doing the declutter kind of work would be better in the afternoon while you're doing the focused work on something else in the morning. It's knowing your times and when your brain works best on different types of activities. Because when you complete that anchor task, again, you're setting yourself up for success to keep that momentum going. And honestly, the rest of the day is just extra credit. It is the sprinkle on the frosting on the cake. Everything else is gravy, okay? And then we get to step 3, which is to protect your focus. We need to protect that focus time because let's face it, even the best laid plans will fall apart when those distractions take over. So protecting your focus means really setting yourself up to follow through on that anchor task. What supports can you put in place to make that happen? Now, I do have a free training. It's the 6 tips to boost your focus and attention. I will link to that in the show notes where I share a lot of practical strategies, 6 of them, to help you boost your focus and attention. But I'll also offer just a few strategies, practical things here. Okay, so first of which is to block that time off for the anchor task. Now, that could be more traditional time blocking, like from 10 till 11, I'm doing this. Or maybe you're using the 4 quarters or the 5 quadrants approach, like I talk about in a previous episode. I can't remember the number, but I will link to it in the show notes. And maybe it's your late morning slot. That's where you want to do the thing, okay? Make that clear for your brain, even if it's 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Treat it like an appointment. Make sure that time is there. You might use visual cues to help you stay on track. Sticky notes on your desk. You put an alarm on your phone or a notification, and that's the only notification you have on, right? Or you put it on the whiteboard or what have you. Give your brain that clear reminder of what you're focused on. And then from there, we want to minimize the other distractions. So if possible, silence those other notifications. Close the unnecessary tabs. Let people know you need that uninterrupted time, whatever the project is that you're working on, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into this entire full process of the prioritization and funneling of knowing what you need to do and what's most important, because honestly, this episode would be so long. But inside We're Busy Being Awesome, my small group coaching program for ADHD brains, we do take this process so much further. In fact, we begin by zooming out quite a bit to really explore your different priorities from several different angles so that your brain has the full picture. It has the big context that it needs to reassure yourself of, oh, this is what I want to be doing. I know I am heading in the right direction, because again, we might choose something. This is what I want to do for the week. But if we don't actually know where we're headed, sometimes that self-doubt can pop in and we go, well, but yeah, I'm doing this, but is this the thing that actually matters? I don't know. So we zoom out and we really clarify where you're headed so that you have that clarity and that certainty of, yes, this is where we're headed. This is what matters. Now, with that being said, when you follow the 3 steps that we talked about today, again, clarify what's most important this week, anchor your day around one key action that leads you toward that priority, and then protect your focus time. If you focus only on those 3 things, you will notice such a huge shift in how you're using your time and energy and attention, because you're not just checking off boxes. You are instead making intentional, meaningful progress every single day. And let me tell you, that is one of the biggest dopamine boosts, is when you're really seeing that progress and fueling the momentum. Now, I also want to talk about a mindset shift here that I think is critical and really kind of changes the game. And this is, the big one of letting go of the idea that we have to, quote unquote, do it all or do it all now. So for ADHD brains, this can be a tough one, because we often think that there is just so much more to catch up on, or we have to prove, or we have to tackle all at once, or we're so behind. But the truth is, more isn't usually better. In fact, it's quite often the opposite. When we focus on fewer meaningful actions, we actually achieve more, because our energy isn't spread thin. It's not spread across dozens of different things. Instead, it's concentrated on those few areas that truly matter, that we identified with intention. When we can let go of the I need to do it all mindset, we really drop into understanding that it's not just about crossing things off the to-do list. It's about creating a sense of calm, a sense of direction, of confidence in how you approach your day. By focusing on fewer priorities, you're not just making progress, you're also reducing overwhelm. In fact, I would love to share with you a win that one of my clients offered at the beginning of one of our calls just a couple of weeks ago. I think it is such a beautiful example of what happens when we really embrace this idea of doing less, but with intention, and how it leads to an even greater impact. Take a listen.
As a accumulation of all of these weeks that we've spent together, I am just generally noticing that I am initiating and taking action more, which is super interesting to me. I just feel this sense of calm. It used to be, I felt like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, all the time. Go, 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 go. But the whole slow down to speed up thing is really coming to life for me. Instead of my core really spinning wildly all the time and me trying to struggle to control it, I just feel more calm and steady. And instead of reacting all the stuff's coming at me and I'm not sure what to do and I'm overwhelmed, the guards are down and I'm kind of I can take the information as it comes and figure out what to do with it and sort out what to do next. And if I don't do it perfectly, it's cool. It's just this sense of inner peace, which is super weird for me. So
where's my little celebration emoji? Let's do that, shall we? That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope you feel so proud of yourself for doing the work. I mean, come on. This is the kind of transformation that happens when we stop chasing everything and instead focus on what matters most to you. By slowing down, by clarifying your priorities and giving yourself permission to let go of that need for perfection, you actually create space to make the progress you want to see and feel good while doing it. This is how we shift from spinning in circles to that steady progress that works, that feels supportive. And the best part is that it's achievable and sustainable when you focus on those small intentional actions that align with what matters most to you. Now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, that sounds great. Where do I start? Let's talk, okay? Maybe identifying your big picture priorities feels incredibly overwhelming and your brain is just ready to melt thinking about all of the endless things on your to-do list. Or perhaps you find it nearly impossible to zoom in on one of those key tasks, let alone deciding what can wait or what you can say no to or let go of. Maybe you are exhausted from overthinking and pondering and deciding and redeciding, and you're ready to start initiating tasks and taking action from that place of calm, like my client shared in her story. Maybe you want a schedule and routines that actually feel supportive instead of restrictive, something that allows you to focus your attention and accomplish what matters most without feeling trapped by structure. Or maybe you're looking for strategies that help you stick with these routines and actually check the things off your list and keep building that sustainable momentum so that you have time for the things that matter to you, your family, your health, your friends, your hobbies, instead of feeling like you're stuck in this one-dimensional life. If any of this resonates with you, I would love to support you in my small group coaching program, We're Busy Being Awesome. It is currently open for enrollment and it is designed to help you figure out what matters most to you this season, simplify your focus, and take that meaningful action in a way that works for your brain. When we work together, we'll create those schedules and routines that support you without feeling restrictive, and you'll build the tools to sustainably follow through so that you can make that real progress without burning out, while also staying aligned to your bigger goals. Now you can learn more through the link in the show notes or head to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/group. And if you have questions, or if you're not sure whether the program is a great fit right now, or you're not sure if you have the time for it, let's talk. You can sign up for a time on that same page, I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/group. I have my calendar right there. We can hop on Zoom, chat about what's going on for you in your life, and we'll decide together whether it is a good time or not, because my goal is to help you get the right supports that you need. So if you're not sure, let's hop on a call and figure that out together. But what I do know is if you're hearing this and you're thinking, that's it, I think I need to simplify and I want to slow down and figure out what matters most so I don't have to live in this constant go, 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 go overwhelm of life. Let's do this. I've got you. I'm here to help. All right, let's quickly recap what we talked about today, because as we know, clarity is everything when it comes to building focus and momentum. So step one, we want to get clear on your priorities. We want to get clear on what matters most to you right now, because when we strip away the noise and we hone in on what's truly important, that is when you create that solid foundation for intentional action. Then we get to step two, which is to anchor your day with one key action. Focus your energy on one meaningful task that will help move the needle on that priority you identified in step one. This isn't about doing everything, okay? It's about choosing the one action that's going to make that big impact toward the overarching goal. And then we build our day around it. How do we prioritize your best time to do that task and let everything else fall in around it? And then we get to step three, which is to protect that focus time. Set up the space, the structure, whatever it is you need to follow through on that, whether it means blocking time on your calendar or minimizing distractions or using visual cues to help your brain stay on track, all of it, okay? At its core, focus, again, it's not about doing more. It's about aligning your energy with what matters most to you. When you build your day around this alignment, you're not just being productive for productivity's sake. You're creating momentum that is sustainable and satisfying. And that last component is so key. All right, my friends, that's going to do it for us this week. And if you are ready to take these concepts and apply them to your life, if you're ready to learn how to work with your ADHD brain in a way that works best for you, I would love for you to join us in We're Busy Being Awesome. Enrollment is open now, and you can learn more and sign up at I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/group. Also, if you know someone who would love to learn about this 3-step process to focus their attention on what matters most, would you be a rock star and share this episode with them? You could send it to them in a text message or snap a screenshot and share it on your Instagram stories. If you do that, be sure to tag me so I can give you a shout out. Either way, please know that I so appreciate you for tuning in and for helping me get these strategies to even more busy, awesome brains who need them. Until next time, keep being awesome. I'll talk with you soon.